Hello, and welcome to Possibilities, the show where we give people living with a variety of different abilities and their loved ones a space to share their lives with the world. Thank you for joining us today, and here's your host, Danny Steeves.
Thank you, Randy, and welcome to another episode of Possibilities. Today's episode, I'm gonna be joined by musician James Ian from Los Angeles, California. Now, James Ian, if you don't know him right now, you will by the end of this interview because he's written what I believe to be a great song when it comes to talking about disability. It's called Spaces, and it's really all about not putting anyone with a disability in a box and really giving them their own space to live a life that they want to live. So I'm gonna be talking to James tonight about his experiences in the music industry, as well as I believe he's an actor as well. So we're gonna be talking all about that as well. He has what is called
Here's the definition of hung, past and past participle of hang.
sorry about that. He has what is called spinal muscular atrophy, and he is really he doesn't have it really bad yet, but we're gonna be talking about that and his disease a little bit as well. So yeah, really interesting conversation coming up here. And yeah, I invite you to sit back and enjoy this conversation, and we'll see what comes out. So he's not quite here yet, so I will take a bit of a break, and then we'll be right back with James Ian. Again, sorry about the phone at the beginning of the show. I'll take care of that in a commercial break as well. So we'll be right back with more possibilities. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Possibilities. Joining me now is musician and actor James Ian. He's joining me from LA tonight. So welcome to the welcome to Possibilities, Steve.
Thank you so much for having me, Danny. I appreciate it. Hope all is well.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to have you here. First of all, can you share with us how you got into the music business and what that life is like for you?
Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine, Danny. And how I got started into music when I was really young, my parents just, they asked if I wanted to, do anything musically, and piano lessons were what was on the table. And so I took those, I took them up on the offer, and I started playing piano around the age of 5 or so. And then I just kind of continued with that for a while, about six years or so, and then I kind of like phased out of piano. But through that whole time, I really loved to, like sing and dance. I was loving stuff that I heard on the radio and, seeing music videos. And so I kind of like at points throughout that time where I was taking piano, I started like, trying to write my own songs and sing. And then from there, once I stopped with piano lessons, I kind of shifted over and was doing like basketball and some other things. And then I was like in like the school choruses and stuff. And so I just was really like in the school choruses. I really just really further kind of like started to fall in love with music more.
Yeah.
And then I continued with my singing through high school. I was in like doing R&B groups and stuff like that. And then when I went to college, I ended up buying like a drum kit, and I started playing drums. And I ended up drumming in a band, and then from there, that propelled me into further singing because I was doing singing stuff when I wasn't drumming. And then I ended up buying a keyboard again, ended up playing keyboard and vocals in a band. And then I always just had instruments around my house. I started playing guitar, and out of necessity, I just started to play guitar a lot more when my band broke up, and started to play guitar and keyboard more and do vocals. And I had been writing songs in the band, but then once the band fell apart, I was writing my own stuff. So that's kind of like my musical career. Through band stuff, I was doing like a lot of performances, a lot of live gigs, and then I turned to the solo route and was doing that, post band.
That is awesome. Would you say solo career is easier than band, or which do you like better?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really like the band aspect. I really like just kind of like I was so close with my bandmates. We were all really, really good friends. They were like family to me, and just kind of going through the music creation process with them was also really fun because everyone kind of was adding their own elements. And so I thought that made it, really, really unique, and kind of everyone put their own flavor on things. But I also I enjoyed the ease of being like a solo artist, and not having to worry about my bandmates' schedules, and if they didn't like this song, or like the opinion. Sometimes in that way it was easier just to deal with my own opinion. So I learned a lot from being in a band, I'd say, as a musician, but then I felt I got to carry those skills over as a solo artist. And I really, really like that. I like the ease of creating by myself. I like that part of it, but I do miss sometimes the camaraderie. So
Yeah. What is the hardest part of being a musician for you?
yeah, it's a good question. I would say like the pressure of success, I think, is the hard part. Like whenever I've made so many songs, and they're all different, but I'd say you're always trying to like one up yourself and do better or whatever. And so when you do make a song, it's like when you're looking at making the next one, you want it to be, you want people to like it and all that stuff. And so there is like a pressure of like outdoing yourself, and then if you do get like good feedback about a song, I think you don't want to put something else out and then not get the same feedback. So it's just the pressure, I think. I mean, a lot of times it's pressure that I put on myself. I think as artists, we're really, really hard on ourselves. And so
Yeah,
that's the hard part.
yeah, absolutely. And um, and I know from being a talk show host, I know how much of pressure can get to you because sometimes um I know for myself sometimes you're like, ah, that episode wasn't really good, so yeah, you yeah, you have to adapt and be flexible. So I know what you're talking about there, definitely. Um,
Right.
um, um, so okay, one of the biggest challenges you face is your um your SM you're diagnosed with SMA syndrome. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy. I have type 3 around right before I turned 15. And so it's a disease that affects, muscles, motor neurons. And so, moving and can be difficult sometimes. So it presents, just issues with moving and things of that nature. I'm prone to fall down
Yeah,
a lot more if I, as opposed to me not having SMA. And so, yeah, it was just, the honestly, the hardest part for me, I think, was that and I'm sure you're aware of this, Danny, like the portrayals of disability in the media are so negative. And there's lots of bad stereotypes and lots of doom and gloom, and people decide things for us, and we're supposed to act this way, do this thing, and you can't do this, you can't do that, you're miserable, the list kind of goes on. And so for me, when I was diagnosed, I didn't know anyone else in my family. I'm the only person I know that, that had SMA. And so it was just from what I'd seen in the media, I thought that my life was going to take on that shape, once I got that diagnosis. So
oh,
that was, that was really the hard part for me. And it wasn't until like I figured out, oh, this is not the way it's going to be for me, and I make the rules, and I'm going to determine how the course of my life, did I kind of like, really start to view things differently and really find a lot more happiness. So that was the hard part. I mean, I have those physical things, that SMA that comes, that come with SMA, but it was really like the mental state and thinking that it was going to be this way, and then I was like, oh, it's not going to be this way. And so that was the big challenge. But once I figured out that, I did all the things I wanted to do, and I dealt with all I deal with all the physical stuff, and I've dealt with that in the past.
yeah,
I'll continue to deal with it, so.
yeah. So when you were diagnosed, did you ever think, and you answered this a bit before in your previous answer, but I want to dig a little deeper and ask you, did you ever think that your career was over when you were diagnosed with SMA?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I honestly, Danny, I did um, when I really started to consider, a music career and really wanted to do that. I did think that SMA was going to prevent me from that career. A lot of the music I liked at the time was like R&B stuff, and so a lot of the artists I love were like actually R&B groups, and they were doing like dances in their routines, in the music videos and
Yeah.
stuff. And so I was like, this is gonna be, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do the dancing and all that stuff. And so I pretty much, based on that genre and what I loved, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do it. And so it really was scary. And I definitely thought that it was not gonna allow me to do music.
Did you ever think of switching genres, like in a way that you could do music but still have but without the dancing?
So I did over time. I did, I started to love other genres, and I was thinking, oh, I could, do this genre of music, perform in this way. Um, and so I did think that, but I also still thought that just it was really like just the music video live performance aspect of it. I still thought that SMA was going to make it tough to do music in any genre, even after I thought of kind of switching things up. I still thought that it was going to be difficult to like do a music video or perform live on stage. So
Sure. Um, and what 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 made you realize that you can do music, and what made you change into that mindset?
so that change happened from essentially me playing live music in like a band capacity and as a solo artist. I had done a couple of things um in college, like as just like singing at like big events and stuff, and got really great feedback from it. And so from there, that's kind of when I joined up in bands, just because people were like, oh, hey, you sing, you should do this. And so once I did that and saw, I was singing, I was playing drums in bands and I could do it, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. SMA is not preventing me from being a musician. And from there, I actually a couple of times on stage in live venues, I actually fell down on stage and kind of had to stop the show, got up, talked about me having SMA, and it really
Yeah.
went over well with the audience, and I got a lot of really cool feedback from it. And so from there, that pretty much just further solidified that you can do music, you can have a career with SMA. So that was what was the change.
So how long have you been in the music industry now?
So I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, I was doing live performances from like high school on. I would see, yeah, so like high school on. Um, yeah, high school on. So pretty much like 20 plus years at this point. Like 20 to 23 years, maybe even more than that. Cause yeah, even more than that, because I was doing piano recitals at like age 5. So like over 30 years if you factor that in. So it's been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So what what when you perform live, what is your favorite what is your favorite part of performing live?
I like the newness of it each time, even if I'm singing the same song, because I have songs that I'm gonna play, in each set at different shows. The thing I really like about it the most is the variable aspect of it. And the same song that I played
Yeah.
the day before could be way different, you know. And I like to just seeing different people and like what a different person's reaction will be to it. So it's just an energy there with a live performance that you can't replicate anywhere. You know, it's almost like you said, Danny, about how you said about, you know, doing this the show, and you said, oh, this episode maybe you felt is better than another one, or this episode is not as good as, you know, whatever it might be. And so I like that about the live show, because it could be it could be great, it could be not so great,
Yeah.
it's different every time, and like there's a small margin of error to get it right, and I like that. You know, it's a little bit scary, but it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I like what you said there, because even though my show is recorded, I almost I almost treat it like a live show, because I don't prepare any of my questions, so really I don't have any idea where I'm going. I just the record button, and what comes out. Like, yeah. So
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
love that. You know, it keeps it fresh if you're not scripted like that, you know?
so okay, the real reason why I wanted to have you on the show today is because you created an awesome song called Spaces. So can you share a little bit about that? And I'll ask you questions along the way, but can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Danny. Yeah, so Spaces was a project that was sponsored by Genentech, actually, and they wanted to bring members of the SMA community together to create, you know, this work of art, this song, and so that was the beginnings of Spaces. We sat down and did a brainstorming session of myself and other members of the SMA community. Shane and Hannah Burkaw, Dominic Evans, who directed the music video, Megan DeJarnette, a bunch of folks, Corey Jacobs, Amber Joy, whose daughter has SMA, and sat down into like a brainstorm of what Zach and Zarek. They have a cool Instagram and like social media presence. I believe they have a YouTube channel as well. So they were all involved, and we essentially brainstormed thoughts and ideas of how that we wanted to, you know, bring into the song. There were two professional songwriters that were involved. Barry Weeks, Tom Rowland. Barry Weeks is a three-time Grammy nominated producer. Tom Rowland is an executive at Universal Music. So it was a lot of cool heavy hitters in the project. And so we sat down, brainstormed, came up with the ideas for the song. And then we kind of, from that brainstorming session, we boiled it down, and myself, Tom, and Barry got together and essentially put like the finishing, you know, cleaned it up and all the ideas and formed that into a song. And Spaces came about that way.
Yeah, I love that. How how did I want to ask, we'll get back to your creative team in a minute, but I want to ask what it was like for you to work with so many heavy hitters in the music business, like a Grammy award-winning musician. How did he get involved in the project? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure of how they connected with Barry and Tom. I believe they I believe maybe there was a previous project that they were involved in. Maybe that I think that's where the connection, but I'm not too sure
Yeah.
before that. But for me personally, it was really, it was a great experience. I've worked in the band capacity with other musicians, making songs and stuff, predominantly for the last, the majority of the last, I would say 10 years or so has just been me writing my own stuff. So it was like getting back into the saddle of working with folks again. That was a little different, but it was a really great process. I thought that people were going to have, strong opinions, and it might be hard to get stuff done with more people involved, but it was actually really easy. Everyone was really supportive. We were given a lot of creative freedom to say and do what we wanted to do with this thing. And so that was really great. And so from that bigger song, writing session, we got the ideas. I essentially took that over a weekend, made the song. Then I sat down with Barry and Tom and we refined it. And it was just really good to have them involved because they know the ingredients for success. They know the ingredients to make a hit song. And so to have their input was really helpful, and they really guided things in the right way. And I love the things that they added and came up with. I had a lot of fun, and it was really great working with them because we're all friends now. And so they're just good people, and so it was all good, and lots of good stuff came from it. So it was an honor to work with everyone.
Absolutely. And the did you always want to create a song like Spaces? Because in my mind, there's not really a song like Spaces out in the music industry today, because that is the only song that I know of today that really focuses on disability. So where did that inspiration come from?
Yeah, I had always wanted to do, I'm all about, disability representation, and doing it the right way. And so I had always, in anything I do, whether it's, acting or music, I always want to put the disability at the forefront. And so I definitely did want to do that with a song. This opportunity just popped up, and it presented itself. And once I heard all the details, I was like, yeah, I got to be involved in this. Don't want to sit on the sideline for this one. And so it just kind of, the stars aligned in the right way to, make it happen. But I did want to do something like this, but I also too, which I think Spaces does a great job of, it's also very, it encompasses, it has all the elements for people who are non-disabled as well, so it is a song for everyone. But I do love that disability was in the driver's seat, and it's so visible in the music video. So it just kind of went beyond what I expected it to be in a very good way. So I'm really happy about that.
Before we go on, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but can you just read some of the words that are in Spaces and explain what they mean to you
Sure.
after you read them?
Yeah, so I'll do some of the lyrics from the chorus, and talk about those. So it's spaces, I leave my mark upon these places, spaces. So that part means one of the things that came up was like being a part of the disability community, a lot of us felt that we're not considered, in everyday life. Often we're looked past, where people think that we're not able to do, certain things, and that we're, like I said, that we're maybe not living happy lives or miserable. And that could not be more false. We're doing lots of cool things. I mean, you have a show, I'm a musician, Shane and Hannah have a great YouTube series. There are a lot of us with disabilities who are leaders in our spaces, and so that line meant we're doing incredible things, cool things, and we're leaving our marks
Yeah.
in the places that we occupy.
Yeah.
So that's the first line of it. The next one is, the next line is spaces. You can see it on my face. Yeah. And I think that is just saying, like, look at us, consider us. We're here. We're expressing all of the feelings that all humans experience, whether you're disabled or non-disabled. The face can be the very expressive thing to gauge how someone's feeling. And so I wanted to show that, we experience these happinesses, these joys, these sadnesses, or these frustrations, just like all people do. And so look at us, to see that. So those are the first two lines of the chorus, and the meanings for those.
Yeah, and one of my favorite lines is, I'm not invisible, I'm original. So, what does that mean in your mind?
Yeah, so that's actually great that you said that, Danny, because those are the next lines that I was going to talk about, and that's the next line of the chorus. But yeah, so that line, I'm not invisible, I'm an original. It's like, hey, look at us, consider us once again. We're here doing all these things. We're human beings. We're doing, people love us. We love people. We have our passions, our dreams. Take note of that and take us seriously, because you're missing out by not doing that, because we're doing some really excellent things. And then that line of I'm an original, it's like, we're all unique, we're creative, we're intelligent, we're original people, like we have our own thoughts and ideas and things that we want to do. And so that line is just to really call attention to that, and it's hopefully telling people that are non-disabled and that typically don't look at us to, like, hey, you're really missing out. We're doing really cool things. We're wonderful, beautiful, fantastic, unique people. So see that, yeah.
I know that. Okay. Going back to your creative team for a minute. You work with two of my favorite people, Shane and Hannah. I absolutely love them. So what was that like, working with Shane and Hannah?
Yeah, that was it was really great to work with them. I actually encountered Shane probably, I think it was his first book, like 8 years ago, or 7 or 8 years ago, and I bought his first book, and we had kind of communicated via Twitter, and I know Shane is a very well-known figure, in the SMA community and beyond. So I was always a fan of Shane's work, and then to work with, with him and Hannah, it was just really, they were, really funny, really great, generous, kind, considerate people. And so it was just nice to collaborate with them. I got to meet them in person, actually, so when I recorded the song, Shane and Hannah came to the music studio. They were there. We did some videos. So that was great. It was great to have them just as, like, because, this was all about representation of disability, representation of SMA. So we had those figures there was really cool, and just felt like, it felt like we're all doing this together and we're doing something really good together. And so that support system was nice to have that. And then they were at the music video shoot for the latter half of the day. They came in and did a few things.
Yeah.
And it's just energizing to be around them and to see them, so it was just loved it. And, to have their creative input, and just to like that just support system and the camaraderie was really, it just energized me and made it extra special.
Absolutely. And I I'll get back to them in a minute because they are the reason why I found you actually. But
Awesome.
I want to ask about the two brothers who done the artwork for the album cover. Can you share a little bit about their story and how they became involved in this project?
Yeah, so I know I haven't interacted with Zarek and Zach a lot, but I've interacted with them a little bit. And so I think, and so Zarek has SMA, and I know that he said that he was doing like, he's an artist, like a graphic artist. And he said one of the things that he was doing was he used to do custom sneakers, which I like, I'm a big sneaker fan. And, so, he said that he was doing that, and then he's branched out since then and done, other types of art. And so he was tapped to do the album artwork, and he did such an incredible job. I mean, that artwork was beautiful. And it was funny because I was telling, some of the other folks involved, like the colors, he got the input of like the lyrics and like the idea and the song title before he made it. I don't think he had much more info than that when he made the artwork. And so when he came back with it, he coincidentally used some of my favorite colors in it, and just the style that he did it in, like stylistically, I'm a really huge fan of like the style that he did the artwork in. So it was just kind of wild because there was not much communication between us, but the artwork it resonated with me so much, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I would have envisioned for it. And so it was just really cool to have that like weird synergy going on where we didn't even communicate, but it just felt perfect, to me and everyone else. So I've seen lots of comments on YouTube about people loving that artwork, and I just want to say again, he did beyond beautiful work with that. It was so good. So
and he I forget the meaning behind the colors, but he actually, the reason why he chose the colors were very personal to him. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that actually, Danny, good. I think they are related to the SMA community, those colors. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask, why do you think people with disabilities are put in those in boxes and different spaces, if you will?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's I think there are probably a number of reasons, but my big thing is I honestly feel like the media portrayals have been so bad for decades and decades, for so long. And so I think that's a reason, because I honestly believe that. I feel like we get a lot of our we formulate a lot of thoughts and ideas around what we see and hear. So if you're seeing these, terrible portrayals, then it's like you kind of internalize that and you're like, oh, people with disabilities are, on a TV show, if they're getting made fun of or they're not, given their freedom to like live their life the way they want to or do things or, be individuals and drive their own lives, then when you kind of encounter people with disabilities in the real world, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that, and it's horrible. But I think that is one of the ways, and I think it's also too, if you haven't been around disability, which shocks me because disability is so common from a stats perspective in life. But if you haven't encountered disability or you don't know anyone, then I feel like it is easier to not engage and try to get to know someone or formulate a bond with them. So I think those are some of the reasons why I think that people have that, we get put into this box of not being capable. Like I've had it where I'm sure you've probably had bad experiences with people with discrimination or someone just not taking you seriously. I've had that tons of times. So I think it's from that, media and people just not willing to engage with us.
Can you share a specific story where you were where a person didn't take you seriously?
Yeah, so I mean, I sometimes use I use a wheelchair sometimes, like if I'm going long distances like airports and stuff, or if my body's just not feeling up to walking, so I'll use a wheelchair. And I've had it where I've been in a wheelchair and like, a friend is pushing me or someone at the airport is pushing me and I'm, go to the ticket counter or something and they don't even talk to me. They're talking to the person that's pushing the wheelchair, and
I hate that.
And I'm like, you can talk to me. So it's just, so I've had that happened recently on I did a trip to Chicago back in September and I used a wheelchair and that happened. Like a person wasn't talking to me and they were talking to the person, the person pushing me. So that's a specific example. And I've had tons of other examples of ableism, in different settings throughout my life, but that's the most recent one.
And how you already answered this, but I want to dig a little deeper again. How did that make you feel when people talk to the person with you instead of you?
Yeah, and thanks for getting me to dig deeper on that. I feel invisible, honestly. Like I notice when I am in a wheelchair, like people don't look at me, or they try to avoid, and so you feel invisible. I feel inhuman. I feel like my life is not valuable. Like it doesn't matter. Like people think I don't have an opinion or that my feelings don't matter. And so it's a really bad feeling. You feel less than a person. You feel like you're not even there, and that like that someone else gets to do the talking and the living for you. And it's really, really sad, and it's really, really eye opening. It puts me in a bad mood after that. I'll become probably more withdrawn into myself when I have those experiences.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Yeah. So why do you think people are more withdrawn to you than you when you I don't know how to say that. So I'm just gonna say it with best I can. But when you are regular games, why do people react to you differently than games in a wheelchair?
Yeah, it's I think it does go back to what I said a little bit earlier about, those portrayals. Like I think they assume that if you use a wheelchair, that you can't, that you can't talk, or you can't think for yourself. And so I think that goes back to the portrayals. I also think too that disability gets painted so much as like this doom and gloom, tragic, extremely sad, shameful thing, when it's not. And so I think when, if I'm using a wheelchair and people see me in it, I think people think I'm sad and I'm upset, and that like perhaps I have shame about using the wheelchair or being disabled, and none of that's true. Like, the wheelchair makes my life easier, to be honest. It saves my energy. Like, I avoid later pain and fatigue with my muscles. I negate the risk of falling down and hurting myself. I get to where I'm going a lot faster, so like there is no shame in me. I don't have shame about being disabled. I'm not, I have a really happy life, I'd say. Like, I've done a lot of cool things. I have great family and friends that love me and I love them. And I've had these unique experiences that a lot of people, never will be able to have. And, like, I've done really cool, awesome things because of the life I've kind of like carved out and just what I've done. And so I feel like I'm really happy, most of the time. I obviously have moments of sadness and, like any person, but I've had a lot of joy and really great experiences. And so it's not that shame and stuff is just not there. It's just not true. And so there is a really big disconnect when people look at me that way, and I'm like, no, that's not how I feel at all. That's not the way my life is at all. And so, yeah.
How do you explain to people that you are just a normal person, and that you don't feel sad about your disability? Sure, you have it, but you don't feel sad about it.
Yeah, it's hard, because sometimes the interactions I have with people are so short, you don't get to say all of that. When the question does come up, if someone does ask me, or there's an opportunity to like say it, just based on a question or whatever it might be, I just come right out and say it, but I really hope that through all the things that I'm doing, through the music, through acting, through these, through interviews, and whenever I have a chance to talk to a larger audience, I want to say that, and I'm hoping that I'm trying to show that, and so I hope people get the message through that, but I don't think it comes up in everyday conversation, but when it does, I take my chances to do that and say it.
And do you think it should come up in everyday conversation?
That's a really good question. It's hard, I don't want to, because life's going to unfold how it unfolds, right? And I think the bigger thing is like, we should be a part of everyday life and just enjoying ourselves and making those connections, so however we can do that, I think we should. But then, from like an educational piece, I think it is also important to say that when we can, because I think that's kind of how we make progress and kind of change the dynamic and change the portrayals in the media. So when we can, I think we should, but I also don't want a person to feel uncomfortable like they're going out of their way to make this statement, So I think we can just do the good by just showing up as our unique selves every day and being honest about who we are and our experiences. And we don't have to share those if we don't want to, if we want to, cool. If not, also cool. So you do what makes you comfortable, and you occupy the space in the way that makes you feel good and true to yourself. And I think that's how we do it. But it's just we just need to get more visibility on our lives as people living with disabilities, So and you're doing that, and I'm trying to do that. So
that was gonna be my next question. Is how can we get more visibility in the media or just in general? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's having, anytime that a story with disability is being told, or there's, an aspect of it, we need to, with TV and film, if there's a disabled role, cast a person with a disability. If the song touches on disability or the music video,
Yeah.
put a person with a disability should be in there. I've done auditions now where I've done voiceover auditions, and it's for like something animated or whatever it might be, and the role has a disability, and they're looking for disabled voice actors, which is really cool because you're not going to see me on the screen, but it comes from that. So anytime the project has disability in it, it needs to do that. And then, we should be writing our own stuff and telling our own stories. I think that's how we get disability out there, by creating, our own disability projects and art. And then from there, because disability is a part of everyday life, it should just be in all the things. It should be in all the films, all the TV shows, all the songs, all the theater productions, so I'm hoping that it expands to that, because disability is a part of life. It's going to be a part of life for the majority of people on this planet. Pretty much everyone is going to become disabled at some point in their life. And so we got to get used to that and start showcasing that.
Amen. Yeah, amen. Yeah. Okay, I want to have a bit of fun now and
All right.
and ask you how when you see Max, I can't think of many people in the media that have a disability, but what sticks out in your mind as the best portrayal and the worst portrayal of someone with a disability in film or television?
So there's a show on Hulu, and this just I love it. It's the show about the Wu-Tang Clan. It's like the Wu-Tang Saga, I think is what it's called on Hulu. And in there, I think it was Raekwon had two brothers that had disabilities, I believe, two younger brothers. And so in the show, it's either one or two, but one for sure does. And there's an actor that uses a wheelchair. He's a younger actor. I don't know his name. I love that show, and I think he does such a good job. It's authentic. He really does, have the disability. There is, I'm blanking. The actor that won the Tony for Oklahoma, she uses a wheelchair. She's doing a lot of great projects, making waves. So that is, she's doing awesome stuff. So like from the authenticity, from the real portrayal, I love seeing that. I'm going to say the Wu-Tang one is my favorite. the younger brother does a great job. Really bad portrayals. I'm gonna say like all the stuff where they used an actor that is not disabled for a disabled role, and what comes to mind recently is the blind or not the blind side. There's the one with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston,
Yeah.
which is based on a movie which I actually the French film. I saw the French film and I love the concept. The actor there is also not disabled,
I,
but
I love
that
that. I love that movie. I love that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that the Bryan Cranston one, just because it's pretty recent in history and the conversation has been going on, you hear about, like not casting a person that is non-disabled for a disabled role, and people continue to do it. So I'm gonna say all of those are the trash ones.
Yeah, and I have a track one that I will talk to you about after
Okay.
when we're off camera. But
Okay.
um, one of the track ones that we will talk about on camera is Speechless on ABC. They they did a show called Speechless a few years ago,
I remember that one. Yeah.
and and they I tried watching it, and I was like, nope, this is really bad. Like it was.
It just wasn't getting to you, huh, Danny?
No, it was really bad. I mean, like I and then when I found out that the actor wasn't disabled, I was like, come on, like, why couldn't you cast a disabled actor in that role? Like, it's a no-brainer. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm really hoping. I'm hoping that people get the message. We've been talking about it for a while, so I'm with you. Like it is a no brainer. It is a no brainer to hire disabled artists to do these roles. I mean, they're excellent. So I'm with you, Danny. I hope so. I hope so that happens. Um, I think for that show, Speechless, I did get an audition request once. I didn't get to go to it right before the show ended, and so I missed it. I do know in the end it seemed like they were casting disabled actors like toward the last part of the show at least. I didn't really watch it, so I don't have
Yeah.
much knowledge, I'm hoping that the industry does that, going forward. But I'm also sure we'll see some Oscar nominated thing at some point for someone who doesn't have a disability and they're, doing a role like that. So
Um, yeah, we're running a bit short on time here, but I do want to get your opinion on a few more things
sure.
before we stop
Yeah.
recording anyway. But one of the best. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really hoping to. Is the one that she and Hannah are involved in Ordinary Joe.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one Yeah.
Yeah, I actually follow that one. I actually watched the episode with Shane and Hannah over the weekend. Yeah, I like that show. Because the son has SMA on the show, and the
Yeah.
actor that
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
name's John Gluck, I believe. He has a form of muscular dystrophy, and he sings and stuff in it. Yeah, I like Ordinary Joe, so I think you should check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Absolutely. I I want I want to, but I haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah.
Um, and I another one something I want to ask you about is what what not to talk about when they're not here, but why don't you think Shane and Hannah are taken seriously, like on their YouTube channel? Because a lot of people treat them like crap on their YouTube channel. So why do you think that is?
Yeah, I've seen some of those like the comments and stuff, Danny. Yeah, and it's terrible, and I think it still goes back to the ableism and like the media stuff, And then I also too think that people just they have like a online you can comment and stuff, and there's this wall of like uh sort of a not like you're a little bit anonymous. I mean, not fully, but you're not physically there with someone, and so I think people just feel like they can just unleash their worst behaviors and comments and traits behind that, because those people, I'm sure, are pretty miserable folks, and they're miserable with their lives. If you're a person that's going to say that, so I think they just feel like they can get away with it, and they can kind of take out their misery on other people. And I think that platform gives them the vehicle to do that. But I think also it's a lot of the media portrayals and stuff, and just people, we've seen it. People just can be terrible. So I think it just boils down to that. I don't. It's really sad, and it really I think about that a lot. It's sad to live in a world like we do, where people are that way, but there are also a lot of good folks out there, and and you're giving such a cool platform to people and doing a lot of good work, and so that
Thank
gives me
you.
hope.
Thank you. But why do you think people don't think that people with disabilities are worthy of having an intimate relationship with Shane and Hannah have? Like, why do you think people are in that mindset of when you have a disability, you're not able to be in a relationship with somebody?
Yeah, I honestly think because of from what we see on TV, that the ableism and the really bad stereotypes and stuff we see, it dehumanizes people with disabilities, and so you go out into the world and you yourself potentially start to dehumanize people, and you're like, oh, this person with a disability, they're not even they're not even worth being considered. I don't even really view them as a human being, and so therefore they can't have love, they can't have intimacy, they can't have intimate relationships, and so I think it just carries on over that. And then again, in the case of Shane and Hannah, I think a lot of those folks that are watching are, they're lonely and they're not in relationships themselves, and so they're sad about their lives in that way, and so then they just kind of project that misery onto Shane and Hannah, with coupled with the idea of like disabled people can't do anything for themselves, and they're not, they're not in the world, and they don't, they can't do these things, and so I think all of that stuff just adds to that, and it just makes for a really bad. It's a recipe for disaster. But unfortunately, we see those comments. Shane and Hannah see those comments, and it's really sad. And I wish that wasn't the case, But I think those kind of factor into the end result of what we see.
I I should have asked you this before, but I forgot. What is the biggest misconception when it comes to people with disabilities in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's that we like that we're not our own, that we're not our own people, that things are sort of dictated to us or put on us, and we kind of have to go with those things, that we can't make our own decisions, and that we can't. I think the big thing is that we can't live fulfilling lives because we're disabled.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest misconception. I think that kind of ties in everything that all the things I've talked about. Yeah, that we can't live fulfilling and happy lives, and that's just not true.
Okay, this next question is really spearheading toward you. What is the biggest misconception that you face?
Just me as a person, or as a musician, or
as as a person with a disability, and as a musician, and as a person,
yeah. I would say, as a musician, I think it's those same things of like not being able to be capable, not being able to be a good musician, whatever that might mean, but not being able to play an instrument well, or write a good song, or sing well. I think that would probably be a misconception that some people might have. I don't know for sure. I haven't experienced that, but that would be my best guess. As a person, it would be also too that like I can't that I wouldn't have a fulfilling life, or like do the things that I want to do. I've had people be like, well, what's dating like for you as a person with disability? And I think, and I've heard that from people with disabilities ask me that. So they think that I can't date, or I'm not dating or something. And none of that stuff is true at all, So it's that me not having a fulfilling life because I have SMA, and I love my life so much. My experiences have been great, and I wouldn't trade those experiences or the people in my life for anything in the world.
What is your answer to those people who say you can't have an intimate relationship, or if they ask you, are you in a relationship right now, what do you say to them?
Yeah, so I'm in a relationship right now. I've had tons of intimate relationships, so I would say I'm the proof. I've done that a lot. So yeah, I like it. I do it, and those are really, I think they're great parts of life in general for lots of people. And so because you have a disability doesn't mean that that's not going to happen for you. I know tons of people with disabilities that date and are in intimate relationships and are married and have kids and whatever else. So yeah, I would say the answer to that question is just look at me, look at us. We're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And um and I want to wrap up the show here shortly, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean that we're done talking.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind sticking around. I wouldn't mind hanging out with you a bit
Oh,
more.
cool. I'd love to.
Yeah, but 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 but, but before we go, I want to ask you, what is next for you when it comes to music or acting or um or what have you?
Yeah, so I actually I was on a song with a couple of friends that I did before Spaces, and they released it on New Year's Eve actually. So or the day before New Year's Eve. So I did that. I'm actually on another. I did another song with another. There's an artist called Doobie. He's a hip hop artist. He has SMA as well. Doobie did a hip hop song. It's called "I'm Right Here," and that is going to be releasing around Valentine's Day. So I sang on that. I did a hip hop verse on that. So excited about that. So I'm going to continue to write. I'm actually with the producers, the musicians that I told you about, Barry and Tom that did Spaces. I'm gonna do some more stuff with them, do some more songs with them. So that'll be coming up at some point in 2022. So from the music side, still going, just gonna keep creating and making stuff, and hopefully do some live performances once it's safer to do that. And then from the acting side of things, I'm still doing that. I'm working on an audition right now. Have had a couple of auditions to kick off the year. So I'm still fully involved in the acting world. I love that. I would never stop doing that. I've been working on a script that I'm writing. So I'm just going to continue to do that stuff, Danny. So it's full steam ahead. Always with me when it comes to music and acting stuff.
Yeah, what has been some of your favorite acting projects?
Yeah, so I did a little commercial actually. I did a commercial back in October. I don't think it's aired yet, but it was mostly like disabled cast, which was really cool. So I was just really excited to see that. All of that, there were people who were doing ASL on set, because there were some deaf actors and the crew also had people with disabilities as well. So that was just cool to see all of those pieces in that. Spaces was really great from it, just because that was a very disability focused. Everyone in the music video had a disability, had SMA or another disability. So that was just really exciting and fun to do. That shoot was just fun because it was just a lot of awesome people there, and just to see the representation like really made me feel at home. And I think it was did a great job of showcasing that you can have people with disabilities involved every step of the way in a project, whether it's TV, film, music, and it'd be really, 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 really good and high quality. So love that. I've done, I did a cool voiceover thing. This was pre-pandemic, and that was great. So the acting projects, I mean, I just like doing it. It's just always really fun for me, whatever they are. Also pre-pandemic, I did a pilot that was like a really fun pilot. That was just like a comedy thing, and so I had a blast doing that. I did a quick comedy thing with Nick Swardson for a Mariah Carey sketch project for the holidays a couple of years ago. That was really, really fun to meet him, and just really goofy and just awesome. So honestly, I love all the acting stuff. I was on a TV show when I was a kid. That was fun. So it's just, I like it. I did a commercial a couple of years back. That was really, really cool and fun, and just great people on set. So honestly, if the set is good and I like the folks and the project, I like it. Like I'm gonna have a good time. So, um,
Well, thank you for joining us today here on Possibilities. It's been a real pleasure. Um, um,
thank
if
you for having
if
me.
if if people want to get in contact with you, how do they do that? Like, how do they keep in touch with you?
Yeah, I use my main platform's Instagram, so I would just say use that. I pretty much highlight all the stuff that I have coming up, new
Yeah.
songs, whatever it might be. The Instagram is at James Ian Music. So I would just I'm on Twitter with the same handle, but I would just go with Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would your final message be for somebody watching this right now?
Yeah, I was gonna if you're watching this and you have a disability, I would say just do what you love and keep doing it and just, never be afraid to be yourself. We need more uniqueness in the world. We need you. We need we need, we need your presence. And so I would say just to keep showing up and being yourself and doing that. Really, that goes for no matter anyone that you are. But I know that, you know, if we have a disability, we're often told we can't do these things. And I just want to say that you can.
Uh, thank you. Thank you, James. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Danny. Same.
What
Great to be here.
one more favor I was
Yeah,
gonna ask you. Could you sing a little bit of Spaces before we go and play us out with that?
sure.
Um okay. Um Thank you for being here today on Possibilities. If you want to get in contact with me here at the show, um, um, my email address is possibilitiesshow@gmail.com. But for right now, it's my honor to take you out with Spaces and James Ian. So take it away, James.
Thank you so much for having me, Danny. It's been such a cool experience. So thank you. Here's a little bit of Spaces. Spaces, spaces. I leave my mark on all these places. Spaces, spaces. You can see it on my face, yeah. I'm not invisible, I'm an original. I'm so much more than what you see or what you bargain for. Spaces, spaces.
Have a great night, everyone. Bye for now.